The ship's intercom crackles 3 times before the words cut through. All passengers report to assembly stations immediately. This is not a drill. Leora Shaw's field equipment scatters across the tilting deck. Hydrophones, cables, her entire research setup sliding toward the rail as the East China Sea rises in a gray wall 30 feet high. The recording device blinks red, still capturing the hull's groans, the screech of metal stressed beyond design limits, sounds that shouldn't exist on a ship 4 days into a routine Busan-Jeju-Kagoshima cruise. She lunges for the primary microphone clipped to the starboard railing. Her fingers close on air. The typhoon wind, 120 miles per hour, the announcement said, convergence of 2 storm systems, rips it free and tosses it into the churning water below. Careful. A hand grips her elbow, firm but not rough. Step back from the rail. Leora turns. A man in his mid-40s, plain charcoal jacket with no crew's VIP insignia, short black hair with white at the temples, dark eyes that don't panic. His Korean accent is soft, precise. He's already assessing the deck, loose chairs, fractured safety glass on the starboard windows, passengers scrambling toward Corridor B. I just lost 6 months of field data, she says, breathless. You'll lose more than that if you go over. He releases her arm. Assembly Station 3. Go now. The ship tilts 15 degrees. Leora's stomach lurches. Water crashes over the bow, soaking the forward observation deck. The amber emergency lights strobe on. Every third bulb, standard maritime protocol for power conservation during system failure. She runs. The stranger runs beside her, matching her stride. Behind them, the metallic shriek of the stabilizer failing echoes through the superstructure. Somewhere below, in the engine room, an engineer is realizing the filed report from 3 weeks ago, the one marked, "Without action," just became a death sentence. The corridor door slams shut behind them. Leora braces against the wall as the ship rolls again. Through the porthole, she watches the sea climb and fall, a rhythm that feels malicious. The stranger's voice is steady beside her. Stay on your feet. Don't sit until we reach the station. Why? Because if you sit now, you won't want to stand again, and we're not done moving yet. The intercom crackles again. This time, the captain's voice, strained, clipped. Stabilizer failure confirmed. All crew to emergency protocols. Passengers, remain calm. Leora's hands shake. The stranger notices. His expression doesn't change, but he shifts slightly, positioning himself between her and the worst of the corridor's tilt, a human counterweight. What's your name? She asks. Yun. He glances at her, then forward. And you're about to see why maritime law requires assembly drills on day 1. Ahead, Corridor 7A is flooding. And if survival meant trusting a stranger whose calm felt impossible, whose presence steadied a ship that shouldn't be standing, would you follow him into the dark? Subscribe now, because this story doesn't end when the storm does. It's only just beginning. 48 hours before the typhoon, Leora had stood in the ship's technical services office, explaining acoustic mapping to a polite but disinterested junior officer. I'm measuring structural resonance, she'd said, pointing to her diagrams. Sound propagation through steel can predict fatigue points before visual inspection catches them. It's preventive. The officer nodded. Dr. Shaw, we appreciate research partnerships, but our maintenance schedule is certified by classification societies. We're quite safe. She hadn't argued. Researchers never won against institutional confidence. Instead, she'd clipped her microphones to the outer rails, set her recorder to capture 6 days of continuous data, and returned to her cabin to draft the introduction for her paper, Acoustic Early Warning Systems for Maritime Infrastructure. Now, as the ship groaned under the typhoon's grip, she wondered if anyone would read it. The flooding in Corridor 7A wasn't deep yet, ankle-high, murky with diesel and salt. But it was rising. Passengers clustered at the far end, near the stairwell access, hesitant to wade through. An elderly woman in a floral blouse stood frozen, gripping her husband's arm. "Elevator's dead," someone shouted. "We have to use the stairs." Yoon moved forward without hesitation. "Stay to the right side. The bulkhead door is still sealed. If it opens, the current will take you." Leora followed, water soaking through her cargo pants. The woman in the floral blouse stumbled. Her husband couldn't hold her weight. She went down hard, face toward the water. Leora reached her first, hooking both arms under the woman's shoulders. "I've got you." But she didn't. Her own feet slipped on the wet floor. The ship rolled again, 20 degrees this time, and she lost her grip. Yoon's hands closed over hers. Together, on 3. They lifted. The woman gasped, coughing water, but she was upright. Her husband took her other side. Yoon guided all 4 of them toward the stairwell, his voice low and constant. 2 more steps, 1 more, through the door. The stairwell was crowded, humid, smelling of sweat and fear. Leora pressed against the railing, catching her breath. Yoon stood beside her, scanning the crowd with the focus of someone conducting an inventory. "You've done this before," she said. "No." He met her eyes. "But I've studied the failures." The ship shuddered. Somewhere below, metal screamed. A child started crying. The sound echoed in the narrow space, multiplying panic. Yoon raised his voice, clear but not loud. "Listen to me. We are 3 decks from Assembly Station 3. The stairs are intact. You will move in single file. If someone falls, you stop and help them up. No one runs. No one pushes. Understood?" Faces turned toward him, some skeptical, some desperate. A man in a business suit scoffed. "Who put you in charge?" "I did." Yoon's tone didn't invite debate. "You can argue with me at the station. Right now, you move." The crowd shifted. They moved. Leora climbed beside him, her legs burning. "You're not just a passenger." He glanced at her. "Neither are you." They reached Deck 5 as the ship's public address system crackled again. "Medical Center requesting assistance. Repeat. Medical Center Deck 4, aft section, serious casualties, elevator access unavailable." Yoon stopped. Leora saw the calculation in his face. Assembly station ahead, medical center below and behind. A choice measured in minutes and lives. "Keep them moving," he told a nearby crew member, then turned to Leora. "Can you help with triage? I'm an acoustics researcher. Can you follow instructions and keep pressure on a wound?" "Yes." "Then you're qualified." He started back down the stairs. Leora followed, because the alternative was standing still, and standing still felt like drowning. The medical center's door hung half open, jammed by a fallen ceiling panel. Inside, chaos. 6 people on gurneys, 2 on the floor, Dr. Min Seo-yeon moving between them with the speed of someone who'd already accepted she couldn't save everyone. She looked up as Yoon and Leora entered. Her eyes narrowed. "President Ri, didn't expect to see you here." Yoon's expression didn't change. "Doctor, what do you need?" "Bandages, hands, and a miracle. In that order." She thrust a roll of gauze at Leora. "Pressure on the scalp laceration, left side. Don't let him sleep." Leora knelt beside a man in his 30s, pale, blood matting his hair. His eyes fluttered. She pressed the gauze down, felt warmth seep through. "Hey, stay with me. What's your name?" "Jin Woo." His voice slurred. "My wife. She's at the station. We'll get you to her, but you have to stay awake." Leora glanced at Dr. Min. "How bad?" "Possible skull fracture. I need a CT scan, which I don't have, and a neurosurgeon, which I also don't have." Dr. Min's tone was flat, pragmatic. So I need him awake and talking until we reach port. Keep him engaged. Yoon worked on the opposite side of the room, stabilizing a woman's broken wrist with a makeshift splint, 2 rulers, and a torn sheet. His hands moved with precision, no hesitation, muscle memory from somewhere. "You've had medical training," Dr. Min said. It wasn't a question. "Maritime Emergency Response Certification. 10 years ago." Yoon tied off the splint. "It's enough." The ship tilted again. Instruments rolled off a cart. A monitor crashed to the floor, screen shattering. Jinwoo groaned, tried to sit up. Leora held him down. "Easy. Talk to me. Tell me about your wife." She's scared of storms." He blinked, struggling to focus. "I told her cruise ships are safe. Stabilizers, modern engineering. They are safe." Leora kept pressure on the wound, her voice steady despite her own fear. "We're going to be fine. What's her name?" "Mi-sun." "Tell me about Mi-sun. How'd you meet?" Jinwoo talked. Leora listened. The blood stopped spreading across the gauze. Dr. Min moved to the next patient, and the next, a triage assembly line. Yoon appeared beside them, holding a radio. "Captain says the eye of the typhoon will pass over us in 90 minutes. Once we're through, weather clears enough for evacuation if needed." "Evacuation where?" Dr. Min demanded. "We're 40 nautical miles from Ishigaki. Coast Guard can't launch in this." "Then we stabilize and wait." Dr. Min laughed, bitter. "Stabilize? With what?" "Half my supplies are locked in a flooded storage room and the pharmacy cabinet is underwater." Yoon crouched, meeting her eyes. "Doctor, you've kept 7 people alive in conditions that would break most professionals. 90 more minutes. That's all I'm asking." Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Dr. Min nodded once. 90 minutes. Then you owe me answers, President Ri. Starting with why maintenance budgets got cut by 30% and why that stabilizer failed. Leora's head snapped up. "President?" Yoon stood, his face unreadable. "We'll discuss it later." "No." Dr. Min blocked his path. "You're Ri Yoon-gyeom. Your company owns this fleet, which means every person bleeding in this room is your responsibility." The air in the medical center changed, thickened. Leora stared at the man who'd helped her lift an elderly woman out of floodwater, who'd splinted broken bones and organized a panicked stairwell, and tried to reconcile him with the title, President. "Is that true?" she asked quietly. Yoon met her gaze. "Yes." Jinwoo stirred under her hands. "Your company cut the budgets? My wife is terrified because you wanted to save money?" "I didn't cut them." Yoon's voice was steady but strained. "My board did, against my recommendation." "Convenient," Dr. Min said. The ship rolled. A cabinet door swung open, spilling bandages across the floor. Yoon bent, started gathering them, his movements methodical. "Blame me now if you want. But we have 87 minutes until the eye passes, and these people need care more than they need my confession." Dr. Min hesitated, then turned back to her patients. "You're right. But when we're through this, you're going to answer for every cut, every ignored report, every choice that put profit over safety." "I know," Yoon said. Leora kept pressure on Jinwoo's wound and said nothing, because words felt like a luxury they couldn't afford. Outside, the typhoon screamed. Inside, they worked. The eye of the typhoon arrived on schedule, a sudden, eerie calm that felt more unnerving than the chaos before it. Wind dropped to near zero. The sea smoothed, still swollen but no longer violent. Passengers at Assembly Station 3 lifted their heads from their knees, disbelieving. Leora stood at the medical center threshold, exhausted. Jinwoo was stable, conscious, talking about his wedding anniversary. 7 patients secured. Dr. Min slumped in a chair, eyes closed but not sleeping, the posture of someone conserving energy for the next crisis. Yoon leaned against the corridor wall, radio in hand. Captain says we have 30 minutes before the back half of the storm hits. They're routing all available crew to pump Corridor 7A and secure the galley. And then what? Leora asked. Then we survive the second half. She looked at him. This man who'd held her elbow on the deck, who'd lifted an elderly woman out of floodwater, who'd just been identified as the CEO responsible for the disaster they were living through. Why didn't you tell me who you were? Would it have changed anything? I don't know. Yoon pushed off the wall, faced her directly. I came on this cruise to audit security protocols, incognito, so I'd see the real operations, not the performance they stage for executives. I wanted to find the failures before they killed someone. He gestured toward the medical center. I was too late. You didn't cause the typhoon. No. But the stabilizer failed because maintenance was deferred. The flooding in Corridor 7A happened because the bulkhead seal wasn't replaced on schedule. The pharmacy is underwater because the storage redesign I proposed, watertight, higher deck, was voted down to save costs. His voice stayed level, factual. I didn't cut the budgets, Dr. Shaw. But I signed off on the board's decision because I didn't want to burn political capital on a fight I thought I'd lose. That's on me. Leora studied him. No defensiveness, no deflection, just accountability, raw and uncomfortable. What are you going to do about it? Survive this. Get everyone to port. Then burn every bridge I need to burn to make sure it doesn't happen again. The radio crackled. All personnel, secure positions, eye passing, storm resuming in 15 minutes. Yoon held out his hand. Assembly Station 3. We finish this together. Leora looked at his hand. Scarred, steady. The hand of someone who'd built things and broken them and now maybe wanted to fix them. She took it. They walked through the corridor as the wind began to pick up again. Passengers clutching railings in each other, the ship groaning back into motion. Assembly Station 3 was packed, 400 people in a space designed for 350, sitting on floors, leaning against walls, orange life jackets strapped tight. A young man in an engineer's uniform spotted Yoon and stood abruptly. Park Ji-hoon. Leora recognized him from embarkation. He'd helped her get equipment clearance. President Ri. Ji-hoon's voice carried across the station. Heads turned. You're actually here. Yoon nodded. Mr. Park. I filed a report 3 weeks ago. Stabilizer A7, hydraulic pressure inconsistent, recommended immediate inspection. Ji-hoon pulled a crumpled paper from his pocket, red stamp across the top. Filed without action. Your office signature, Chairman Kang's approval. And now we're sitting in a typhoon with a failed stabilizer because no one wanted to delay the cruise schedule. Murmurs rippled through the station. Anger, fear, recognition. A woman stood. My daughter is in the medical center because of your negligence. My husband is missing from deck 2. Another voice added. Yoon didn't move, didn't defend. He let the anger wash over him, absorbed it, the way he'd absorbed the ship's roll earlier, redistributing weight to keep standing. You're right, he said finally. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The report was filed. It should have been acted on. The delay cost lives and safety. I can't undo that. But I can make sure everyone in this room survives to hold me accountable. Pretty words, someone muttered. Leora stepped forward before she fully decided to. Without him, half of you wouldn't be here. Her voice surprised her, firm, loud. He organized the stairwell evacuation when you were panicking. He carried Mrs. Kim out of Corridor 7A when her husband couldn't hold her. He's been in the medical center for the last 90 minutes keeping people alive while you've been sitting here safe. She met Ji-hoon's eyes. So yes, blame him. Sue him. Demand answers. But do it after we're on land, because right now, he's the reason you have a chance to do any of that. Silence. Tense. Fragile. Yun looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. Then he turned back to the station. Brace positions. Storm resuming in 8 minutes. The intercom confirmed it seconds later. All passengers, secure positions. Stabilizer compensations engaged. This will be rough. The typhoon's second half hit like a fist. The ship tilted 30 degrees, more than before, the failed stabilizer creating asymmetric roll. Leora grabbed a support rail. Yoon braced beside her, one hand on the rail, the other steadying an elderly man who'd lost his grip. "Count with me," Yoon said to her, his voice low. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out. Repeat. What? Breathing. It regulates panic. 4 in. He inhaled slowly. Hold. 4 out. Leora followed. 4 counts in. Hold. 4 counts out. Her heart rate slowed. The ship rolled again, but the breathing rhythm gave her something to anchor to. Again, Yoon said. They breathed together through the worst of it. The screaming wind, the shuddering hull, the lights flickering on and off. Around them, others watched, then copied. 4 in. Hold. 4 out. A station of 400 people breathing in sync, a fragile defense against terror. 2 hours later, the sea began to calm. The captain's voice returned, shaky but functional. We are through the typhoon. Damage assessment underway. Medical teams, report to stations. Leora's legs shook when she tried to stand. Yun caught her elbow. Same grip as on the deck, firm but careful. I'm here, he said quietly. She believed him. Morning broke gray and exhausted. The ship limped toward Ishigaki, engines running at half capacity, stabilizer offline, hull integrity questioned but holding. Passengers emerged from assembly stations like refugees, disheveled, shell-shocked, alive. Leora returned to her cabin to find it ransacked by the storm. Her laptop survived, waterproofed case intact. Her research notes were pulp. The acoustic recorder was gone, along with the 6 days of pre-storm data. She sat on the tilted bed and stared at the porthole, watching the calm sea outside, and felt nothing. A knock. Yoon stood in the doorway, still in the same charcoal jacket, now stained with diesel and blood. Captain wants to talk to you. Why? Your acoustic expertise. They're trying to assess hull damage without dry dock access. Sonar imaging is down. Leora stood. I lost my equipment. Ship's engineering has sonar. Different application, but the principles are the same. They need someone who understands sound propagation through stressed materials. She followed him to the bridge, a space she'd never seen, now crowded with crew, engineers, and one very tired Captain Lee. Maps covered the main table, damage reports stacked beside them. Captain Lee looked up. Dr. Shaw, President Rhee says you can tell us if the hull will hold. Leora approached the table. I need access to your sonar array and a portable monitor, and I need to hear the hull. Hear it? Structural failure has a sound signature. Microfractures create high-frequency vibrations. If I map those against your sonar imaging, I can identify the risk zones. Park Ji-hoon, standing at the edge of the group, pulled out a tablet. I can route sonar feeds here. Portable enough? Yes. They worked through the morning, Leora analyzing waveforms, Ji-hoon adjusting parameters, Yun translating technical findings into operational decisions for the captain. The hull had 3 critical stress points, 2 manageable with reduced speed, 1 that required constant monitoring. We can make Ishigaki, Leora said finally. But don't push the engines, and keep everyone away from Corridor 9B. That section could breach with any significant wave impact. Captain Lee nodded, issued orders. Crew scrambled. Yun stayed beside Leora, reviewing her data. This is good work. It's improvisation. It's the difference between making port and sinking. I'll take improvisation. Dr. Min entered the bridge, exhaustion written in every line of her face. Captain, medical status, 2 critical, stable for now, 5 serious, need hospital transfer on arrival, 12 minor injuries, no fatalities. She paused. We were lucky. We were prepared, Captain Lee corrected, though his voice lacked conviction. We were neither, Dr. Min said bluntly. We survived because people improvised when systems failed. That's not preparation, Captain. That's desperation with a lucky outcome. Silence on the bridge. No one argued. Yoon spoke quietly. Doctor, when we reach port, you'll have full access to the company's post-incident investigation. Your testimony will be recorded and protected. Dr. Min met his eyes. Will it matter? It will if I have to burn the company down to make it matter. Then I'll testify. Ishigaki appeared on the horizon 2 hours later. Small, green, impossibly solid. Passengers crowded the rails, some crying, some silent. Leora stood apart, watching the port approach, and felt the weight of the last 48 hours settle into her bones. Yoon appeared beside her. Your research. I know you lost data. 6 months, she said. Gone. Not gone. The recorder was transmitting to a cloud server before it fell. The ship's tech team pulled the backup this morning. It's corrupted, but recoverable. Leora turned to stare at him. How did you... I asked. You needed it. So I asked. He handed her a USB drive. Preliminary recovery. Full data set will take a week, but this is enough to start. She took the drive, too stunned to speak. Dr. Shaw. Yoon's voice was softer now. Private. What you said at the assembly station. Defending me. You didn't have to. You didn't have to pull me back from the rail, or help Mrs. Kim, or spend 90 minutes saving lives in a medical center. Leora met his eyes. We're even. We're not. He hesitated. But I'd like to try to be. When you're ready. The ship docked. Port officials swarmed. Camera crews appeared. News vans, satellite trucks, the machinery of crisis coverage. Leora watched Yoon step off the gangway into a wall of flashing lights and shouted questions, his expression neutral, his posture steady. A woman in a sharp suit intercepted him. Juwan, his secretary, tablet in hand. They spoke briefly. Yoon glanced back once, found Leora in the crowd. Nodded. Then he disappeared into a black car, and Leora was left standing on solid ground that still felt like it was moving. 3 weeks later, Leora sat in her New York apartment, rain drumming against the window. The acoustic data was fully recovered, better than expected, capturing structural harmonics during the typhoon that no lab could replicate. Her supervisor, Dr. Carter, wanted the paper published immediately. Acoustic mapping of structural failure under extreme conditions. She couldn't write it. Every time she opened the document, she saw Corridor 7A. Heard Jinwoo asking about his wife. Remembered the rhythm of breathing. 4 in, hold, 4 out, while the ship tried to shake itself apart. Her phone buzzed. An email from an address she didn't recognize. International Maritime Safety Collaborative. Subject: Research Partnership Proposal. She opened it. Dr. Shaw, your work on acoustic early warning systems has come to our attention. We are developing a pilot program for retrofitting passenger vessels with structural monitoring technology and would like to invite you to lead the research phase. The project is funded independently and will include full lab access, field testing, and publication rights. Details attached. We hope you'll consider. Respectfully, Dr. An Jae-sung, Project Director. Leora clicked the attachment. Comprehensive scope, generous budget, Seoul-based lab with international collaboration. Anonymous donor. She stared at the funding line and knew exactly who'd signed the check. She called the number listed. Dr. An answered in accented English. Dr. Shaw, thank you for calling so quickly. Who funded this project? A pause. The donor prefers anonymity. Is it Ri Yoon-gyum? Another pause. I am not at liberty to. Dr. An, I was on that ship. I know who he is. I just need to know if he thinks he can buy his way out of guilt with research grants. Dr. Shaw. Dr. An's voice softened. Mr. Ri did not fund this to alleviate guilt. He funded it because you told him, on the bridge of a sinking ship, that sound could save lives, and he believed you. The rest is your decision. Leora ended the call and stared at the rain. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. This is Yoon. I got your contact from the ship's passenger manifest. I hope that's not inappropriate. I wanted to ask if you're okay. No obligation to respond. She stared at the message. Typed. I'm fine. Deleted it. Typed. Are you? Deleted that too. Finally. Did you fund the Soul Research Project? 3 minutes later. Yes. You don't have to accept it. The offer stands either way. I just wanted you to have the choice. Leora set the phone down, picked it up, typed. Why? His response came immediately. Because you were right. Sound can save lives, and I owe it to everyone on that ship to make sure it does. She sat with that for a long time. Then she typed, I'll think about it. Take all the time you need. Seoul in October was rain and neon, streets slick with reflected light, cafes steaming behind fogged windows. Leora arrived with 2 suitcases and a single goal, build something that mattered. The lab was in Seongsu, a gentrified district of refurbished factories turned tech incubators. Dr. An greeted her with a bow and a warm handshake. Welcome, Dr. Shaw. Your workspace is ready. The lab was state-of-the-art. Acoustic chambers, spectrometry equipment, computational servers. Everything she'd requested and more. A small team of engineers and acoustic students waited, polite and eager. Leora spent the first week designing the prototype, acoustic sensors embedded in hull sections, linked to AI analysis that could distinguish normal operational stress from pre-failure signatures. The data from the typhoon was the foundation, real-world extremes that would take decades to simulate. She didn't hear from Yoon. She told herself that was fine. On the 8th day, Dr. An invited her to a stakeholder meeting. The project funders want an update, standard procedure. The meeting was at a corporate tower in Gangnam, glass and steel, immaculate. Leora wore her only blazer, felt underdressed anyway. The conference room was filled with men in suits, women in tailored dresses, everyone polite and inaccessible. Yoon sat at the far end of the table. He looked different, sharper, formal, hair neatly styled, suit that probably cost more than her research stipend. But when their eyes met, he smiled slightly, a private acknowledgement. She presented the prototype concept. The room listened with the polite attention of people who didn't really understand, but trusted the credentials. Afterward, questions. Timeline, budget, liability. Yoon asked the last one. Dr. Shaw, if this system had been installed on the ship during the typhoon, what would it have detected? She met his eyes. The stabilizer failure, 18 hours before it became critical. The hull stress in Corridor 9B, before the flooding started. And the microfractures in the bulkhead seal that caused Corridor 7A to flood. A pause. It would have given the crew time to act. Not much, but enough. Silence in the room. Heavy, acknowledging. Then it's worth every one we invest, Yoon said quietly. The meeting adjourned. Stakeholders filtered out. Yoon stayed, gathering papers, slow enough that Leora knew it was intentional. When the room emptied, he approached. You came, he said. I did. How's the lab? Perfect. Suspiciously perfect. He smiled, a real one this time. I hired the best project manager in the industry. Told her no compromises. Leora crossed her arms. You don't have to do this. Do what? Fund my work. Clear your conscience. Whatever this is. Yoon's smile faded. This isn't about my conscience, Dr. Shaw. It's about making sure the next ship doesn't sink. You have the expertise. I have the resources. That's not guilt. It's pragmatism. And if I fail, then we learn and try again. That's how engineering works. She studied him, still the same man who'd steadied her on a tilting ship, but now framed by wealth and power she couldn't match. Why does it feel like you're always catching me before I fall? Because you keep running toward the edge, he said gently, and someone should be there when you do. Her breath caught. There's a cafe in Seongsu, Yoon said, breaking the moment carefully. Near your lab, serves decent ginger tea. If you want to talk about the project, or not talk about the project, I'll be there Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, no obligation. He left before she could answer. Thursday, Leora told herself she wouldn't go, then told herself she was going for professional reasons, then stopped lying and admitted she wanted to see him outside a conference room. The cafe was small, warm, walls lined with books and mismatched furniture. Yoon sat in the back corner, plain sweater, no suit, reading something on his phone. He looked up when she entered, and his whole face changed. Relief, pleasure, something unguarded. You came, he said again. I'm starting to think that's your favorite phrase. He laughed. Ordered ginger tea for both of them without asking. When it arrived, steam curling between them, he said, How's New York? Loud, far away. She wrapped her hands around the cup. How's being a CEO? Complicated. More so lately. The typhoon? The aftermath. Yoon's expression darkened. The board wants to settle quietly, pay survivors, sign NDAs, move on. I want a full investigation, public findings. Design changes across the fleet. And they don't. They think I'm burning the company for personal reasons. Leora leaned forward. Are you? Partially. He met her eyes. But mostly I'm burning it because it deserves to burn. The negligence, the cost-cutting, the culture of filing reports and ignoring them. It's institutional rot. If I don't cut it out now, it'll kill someone else. That's a very inconvenient moral stance for a billionaire CEO, Leora said. I've been told. They talked until the cafe closed. About the project, the ship, the impossible task of reconciling who they were during the typhoon with who they were on land. Yoon told her about his father, who'd built the company with sweat and vision, and at the end, compromised both for profit. Leora told him about her mother, who'd died 6 months before the cruise, leaving her adrift in grief she didn't know how to process. Is that why you took the research trip? Yoon asked gently. To get away? Maybe. Or to prove I could still do the work. I'm not sure there's a difference. He nodded. I understand that. Walking back through Seongsu's rain-slick streets, Yoon's phone buzzed insistently. He glanced at it, frowned. I'm sorry, I need to take this. He stepped away. Leora watched his posture change, shoulders tightening, jaw setting. When he returned, his face was carefully neutral. Problem? The board is calling an emergency meeting. Someone leaked the internal investigation findings to the press. Chairman Kang thinks it was me. Was it? No, but I'm glad someone did. 2 days later, every major Korean outlet ran the story. Maritime giant ignored safety reports before typhoon disaster. Internal memos. Budget cuts. Ji-hoon's filed report. Scanned and annotated. And at the center, a board meeting transcript where Chairman Kang dismissed maintenance concerns as expensive paranoia. The backlash was immediate. Protests outside company headquarters, survivors filing lawsuits, shareholders demanding resignations. Leora watched from her lab, screens filled with news coverage, and felt the ground shift again. Different from the typhoon, but just as unstable. Her phone rang. Yun. "Are you safe?" he asked, no preamble. "I'm in a lab. Why wouldn't I be?" "The media knows you were on the ship. They're looking for survivor testimonies. Some outlets are..." He paused. "Not careful about consent. I can handle reporters." "I know, but if you need anything, distance, security, legal support, tell me." "Yun." She stopped him. "Did you leak those documents?" Silence. Then, "No. But my secretary, Juwon, had access, and she has a conscience. I didn't ask her to do it. But I didn't stop her either. So you're complicit. Deliberately." Leora closed her eyes. "You're going to lose your company." "Probably, but I'll sleep better." "That's not a strategy. It's the only one I have left." His voice softened. "Leora, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. If this goes to trial, and it will, you'll be called as a witness. They'll ask about the typhoon, about the decisions made on the ship, about me." A breath. "Will you tell the truth?" "Yes. Even if it hurts me?" "Especially then." A pause. Then quietly, "Good. That's what I need you to do." He hung up. Leora stared at her phone and realized she'd just promised to testify against the man who'd saved her life, funded her research, and somehow, against all logic, made her believe that land could be steadier than water. The trial began in January, Seoul bitter cold, courthouse steps crowded with cameras and protesters. Leora sat in the witness waiting room, hands clasped, watching survivors she recognized from the ship filter past. Ji-hoon, Dr. Min, passengers she'd helped evacuate. Her turn came on day 4. The prosecutor was sharp, efficient. "Dr. Shaw, you were on the ship as a researcher. What was your expertise?" "Acoustic structural analysis." "And during the typhoon, you assisted with damage assessment?" "Yes." "Can you describe the structural failures you observed?" She did. Clinical. Precise. The stabilizer. The bulkhead seal. The microfractures in Corridor 9B. The prosecutor displayed photos, diagrams, her own acoustic data. "Dr. Shaw, in your expert opinion, were these failures preventable?" "Yes. With proper maintenance schedules and timely response to filed reports." "And were those schedules maintained?" "No." The prosecutor nodded. "Thank you. Then, can you describe President Ri's actions during the crisis?" Leora's chest tightened. She looked at Yoon, sitting at the defense table in a dark suit, expression neutral. Their eyes met. He organized evacuations, assisted with medical triage, used his maritime knowledge to prevent further casualties. Without his actions, several people, including myself, would likely have died. The prosecutor's expression didn't change. Did he, at any point, identify himself as the CEO of the company that owned the ship? Not initially. When did you learn his identity? During the crisis, from Dr. Min. And how did that change your perception of him? Leora paused. It complicated it, but it didn't erase what he'd done to help. The defense attorney stood. "Dr. Shaw, you've testified that President Ri's actions saved lives. Do you believe he bears personal responsibility for the maintenance failures?" She thought about the answer carefully. "I believe he bears responsibility for the institutional culture that allowed those failures. Individual actions during the crisis don't absolve systemic negligence." but they do prove he's capable of prioritizing lives over company image. And that matters. Both attorneys looked surprised. Yoon's expression didn't change, but his hands folded on the table relaxed slightly. Afterward, in the courthouse hallway, Dr. Min found her. You gave him a fair testimony. I gave an honest one. Same thing in this case. Dr. Min glanced toward the courtroom. He's going to lose the company. Chairman Kang is cutting deals, throwing him to the wolves. I know. And you're still here. Leora met her eyes. He asked me to tell the truth, so I did. That's what he deserves. Dr. Min smiled, tired but approving. He chose well. Chose what? Who to trust when everything else falls apart. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The verdict: criminal negligence by the board, civil penalties, forced restructuring. Chairman Kang resigned under pressure, facing separate charges. Yoon was cleared of criminal liability, but held accountable for oversight failures. Mandated to step down as CEO, barred from executive roles in the company for 5 years. He didn't fight it. Leora watched the sentencing from the gallery. When the judge adjourned, Yoon stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked out without looking back. She followed him outside, into winter wind that cut through her coat. Yoon. He stopped, turned, looked at her like he hadn't expected her to follow. Dr. Shaw. It's Leora. Call me Leora. A faint smile. Leora. Are you okay? He considered the question. I'm lighter. Does that count as okay? I don't know. Does it feel good? It feels true, which is close enough. They stood in the cold, breath misting between them. Leora said, What now? Now I figure out who I am without the company. He looked at her, and I keep my promise. What promise? That I'm here, if you still want me to be. Leora stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him against the winter air. I testified against you. You testified honestly. That's different. I might have cost you everything. You didn't. The company cost me everything. You just helped me see it clearly. Yoon's voice dropped softer. Leora, I spent 20 years building something that nearly killed people because I was too afraid to burn it down. You stood in that courtroom and told the truth, even when it hurt, because it was right. That's not costing me. That's saving me. She reached for his hand, scarred, steady, the same hand that had pulled her back from the rail. Then let's figure out what here looks like. Together. He smiled, real and unguarded. Together. Spring came slow to Seoul. Leora's prototype passed its first field test. Acoustic sensors installed on a mid-sized ferry, successfully detecting stress fractures during routine operations. The shipyard crew called it the listening system, which made her laugh. Yoon, no longer CEO, became an advisor, consulting on maritime safety, giving lectures at universities, funding startups focused on structural engineering. He looked different without the suits, more relaxed, more himself. They saw each other in fragments, coffee between meetings, late-night calls when Leora's datasets refused to cooperate, weekends walking along the Han River. The rhythm was new, uncertain, built on rituals they invented together. Ginger tea on Thursdays, breathing exercises when the rain sounded like typhoon wind, phones turned off on Sundays. One evening in April, Yoon arrived at her apartment with takeout and a strange expression. I need to tell you something. Leora set down her laptop. Okay. The company is refurbishing the ship. New stabilizers, upgraded safety systems, full structural redesign. They want to reinstall it on the same route, Busan to Ishigaki. Her chest tightened. Why are you telling me? Because they asked me to consult on the refit. And I said yes, on one condition. that they install your acoustic monitoring system as part of the redesign. He met her eyes. The first calm room, a dedicated space with your sensors, soundproofing, designed for passengers who need a safe, quiet place during rough weather, will be operational by June. And they want you there for the inaugural voyage. Leora stared at him. You want me to get back on that ship? I want you to see what you built, what we built. A ship that listens. That protects people instead of ignoring them. He reached for her hand. But only if you want to. No pressure, no obligation. She thought about Corridor 7A, the flooding, the fear, the sound of metal screaming. Then she thought about Jin Woo, alive, reunited with Mi Sun. About Ji-hoon's testimony changing corporate policy. About the rhythm of breathing through chaos. 4 in, hold, 4 out. I'll go, she said. But you're coming with me. Yoon's relief was visible. I was hoping you'd say that. June brought heat and humidity. The refurbished ship gleamed at Busan port, repainted, restructured, carrying the scars of the typhoon only in memory. Leora stood at the gangway, heart pounding, Yoon beside her. Ready? He asked. No, but I'm going anyway. They boarded together. The ship felt different, brighter, newer, but echoes remained. She walked to Corridor 7A, now fully sealed and dry, and touched the bulkhead. Solid. Secure. The walls had been reinforced with triple-layer steel plating, the kind of over-engineering that came from institutional shame finally converted into action. The calm room was on Deck 5, amidships, most stable location. Leora entered and felt her breath steady. Soundproofed walls lined with acoustic dampening panels, soft amber lighting that wouldn't trigger storm memories, chairs designed for comfort with adjustable backs. And embedded in the ceiling, her acoustic sensors, quietly monitoring, always listening, feeding real-time data to the bridge and maintenance systems. A plaque beside the door, in memory of those who survived, and in service to those who sail. Designed by Dr. Leora Shaw. She hadn't known about the plaque. Turned to Yoon, who smiled. You earned it. We earned it. Then we'll share it. The inaugural voyage was quiet. Press coverage, safety demonstrations, survivors invited as honored guests. Ji-hoon walked the corridors with the tablet, pointing out the upgraded systems to journalists. Dr. Min stood at the medical center, now twice its former size, fully stocked, with backup generators and waterproof supply storage. Jin Woo and Mi Sun were there too, holding hands on the observation deck, watching Busan Harbor recede. Jin Woo's scar had healed to a thin white line above his left temple. When he saw Leora, he bowed deeply. Dr. Shaw, thank you for keeping me awake. You kept yourself awake, she said. I just gave you a reason. Mi Sun smiled, squeezed her husband's hand. He talks about you, about that night. Says you made him believe morning would come. Leora's throat tightened. Morning always comes. Sometimes it just takes longer than we'd like. The ship sailed at dusk, cutting through calm seas under clear skies. Leora stood at the rail, the same rail where she'd lost her microphone 6 months ago, and watched the wake spread silver behind them. Yoon appeared beside her, 2 cups of ginger tea in hand. Traditional offering? She asked. Ritual, he corrected. There's a difference. They drank in silence, the ship's engines a steady hum beneath their feet. The acoustic sensors transmitted their data. Green across all channels. Structural integrity optimal. Leora's phone buzzed with the monitoring app notification. All systems nominal. It works, she said quietly. You doubted? I doubted I could get back on this ship. The system I was confident about. Yoon set down his cup, turned to face her fully. Leora, I need to tell you something, and I need you to not interrupt until I'm finished. Her pulse quickened. Okay. When I met you on that deck, in the middle of a typhoon, I was running from my own failure. I'd spent months trying to prove the company was broken, collecting evidence, building a case, but I was too afraid to pull the trigger. Too afraid of what I'd lose. Legacy, reputation, my father's memory. He paused, choosing words carefully. Then the storm hit. And in the medical center, when you kept Jin Woo awake by talking about sound waves and acoustics, I realized something. You weren't afraid of the work. You were afraid of the water. But you did the work anyway, and that made me braver. Leora stayed quiet as promised. The documents that leaked, Ji-hoon's report, the board transcripts, the budget cuts, I didn't leak them. But Ju-won did, with my implicit permission. She asked if I wanted her to stop digging. I said no, which makes me complicit. His voice steadied. I lost the company, lost my title, my position, the thing my father built, and I'm not sorry, because what I found instead was worth more. What did you find? Leora asked softly. Yoon reached for her hand. You. And the person I am when I'm with you. Someone who doesn't hide behind boardrooms and institutional loyalty. Someone who acts when it matters, even when it costs everything. The ship rolled gently, a natural sway that felt nothing like the typhoon. Leora laced her fingers through his. You didn't find that person, Yoon. You were always that person. You just needed a storm to prove it to yourself. Then I'm glad for the storm. Liar. She smiled. But I understand what you mean. He pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers, the same position from the assembly station when he'd taught her to breathe through panic. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. She felt his breath match hers, steady and synchronized. I'm here, he whispered. I know, she whispered back. And I'm not going anywhere. They stayed like that. 2 people who'd survived a typhoon and a trial, and the harder work of rebuilding trust on solid ground, while the ship sailed smooth, and the sensors listened, and the sea stretched endless and forgiving ahead. August in Seoul was monsoon season, rain that came in sheets, turning streets into rivers, and skies into gray weight. Leora's apartment in Seongsu had a small balcony overlooking the Han River. She'd taken to sitting there in the evenings, watching water fall into water, listening to the acoustic signature of rain on glass. Until the night the sound changed. It started as ordinary rain. Then the wind picked up, rattling the balcony door. Thunder rolled across the river, deep and resonant. And suddenly Leora was back in Corridor 7A. Water rising, metal screaming, the ship tilting under her feet. Her breath shortened. Pulse spiked. Hands shook. The rational part of her brain knew she was safe. 6 stories up, solid building, no ocean for miles. But her body didn't care about rationality. She fumbled for her phone, hands too unsteady to unlock it. Dropped it. The sound of it hitting the floor spiked her panic higher. She pressed her back against the wall, knees pulled to chest, trying to remember the breathing technique. 4 in, hold, 4 out. But the count dissolved into static. A knock at the door. Firm. Rhythmic. 3 beats. Pause. 2 beats. Yoon's pattern. She couldn't stand. Couldn't call out. The knock came again. Leora. His voice through the door, calm but urgent. I'm here. Open the door if you can. If you can't, I'm coming in anyway. I kept the spare key you gave me. 5 seconds of silence. Then the lock turned. Yoon entered, closed the door quietly behind him. Took in the scene immediately. Leora on the floor, phone discarded, rain hammering the window, her breathing fast and shallow. He didn't ask questions, just crossed the room, sat down beside her, and placed his hand on her shoulder. 4 in, he said quietly. With me, 4 in. She couldn't. Shook her head, Just one count, that's all. One breath in. I'll count. 1. He inhaled slowly. 2, 3, 4. She tried. Managed 2 counts before her breath hitched. Good, that's good. Again. 1, 2. This time, 3 counts. Perfect. Now hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. She held. Felt his hand steady on her shoulder, grounding. 4 out. Slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. She exhaled. Her vision cleared slightly. The roar in her ears dulled to the actual sound of rain. Just rain, not ocean, not typhoon. They breathed together for 10 minutes. Then 20. Until her pulse settled and her hands stopped shaking. Until the rain became rain again, ambient and neutral. I'm sorry, Leora said finally, voice hoarse. For what? For falling apart. Yun shifted, leaning against the wall beside her so their shoulders touched. You didn't fall apart. You had a normal physiological response to a traumatic trigger. That's not weakness. That's biology. It feels like weakness. It's not. His voice was gentle but firm. Leora, I have nightmares 3 times a week. I wake up thinking I'm back on the bridge, watching people drown because I signed a budget report without reading the footnotes. Doctor, Min told me she can't eat in crowded restaurants anymore because the noise makes her feel trapped. Ji-hoon avoids ferry rides even though they're faster than driving. He turned his head to look at her. Trauma doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And healing isn't linear. Some days you'll board that ship like you own it. Other days rain will sound like the end of the world. Both are okay. Leora wiped her eyes, embarrassed by the tears she hadn't noticed falling. How did you know to come? The weather alert. I saw the storm warning and thought... He paused. I thought you might need someone here. Was I wrong? No. She leaned her head against his shoulder. You were exactly right. They sat together as the rain continued, softer now, losing its violence. Yoon pulled out his phone, opened a timer app, set it for 4 counts. Breathing timer. I use it at night when the dreams are bad. It vibrates in patterns. 4 in, hold, 4 out. Helps when I can't count on my own. That's smart. It's survival. He showed her how to set it, the patterns customizable, the vibration gentle. Not ashamed to use tools. Pride doesn't stop panic attacks. Tools do. Leora took the phone, studied the app. Will you stay tonight? Not... She fumbled for words. Not for anything except being here. I just don't want to be alone when the rain sounds like that. I'll stay as long as you need. He made ginger tea in her tiny kitchen while she changed into dry clothes, her shirt soaked with rain and sweat from the panic. When she returned, he'd set up the breathing timer on her coffee table, pulled blankets from her closet, turned on a lamp that made soft, warm light. The apartment felt safer already. They sat on the couch, tea between them, rain steady but no longer menacing outside. Yoon told her about his own therapy, twice a week, with a psychologist who specialized in corporate trauma and moral injury. She told me guilt is useful when it drives change, but toxic when it drives shame. I'm still learning the difference. What helps? Leora asked. Honestly, you, this project, seeing the sensors work, knowing that the next ship won't have the same failures. It doesn't erase what happened, but it gives the disaster a purpose beyond pain. He sipped his tea. And the breathing exercises, and learning to ask for help instead of pretending I'm fine. I'm not good at asking for help, Leora admitted. I noticed. You tried to handle tonight alone until you physically couldn't. Old habit. My mother raised me to be independent. Don't rely on anyone, she'd say. They'll leave eventually. Did she leave? Cancer. 6 months before the cruise. Leora's voice went quiet. I was handling it. Or thought I was. Then the typhoon happened, and suddenly I couldn't handle anything. Like her death and nearly drowning broke the same dam, and everything flooded at once. Yoon set down his tea, turned to face her fully. Leora, you don't have to handle everything alone. That's not strength. That's self-imposed isolation. Strength is saying I need help and accepting it when it's offered. Is that in your therapist's script? Yes, and it's also true. She laughed despite herself, the sound breaking tension. Okay, then I'm asking. Will you help me get through monsoon season without losing my mind? Yes, on one condition. What? You let me ask for the same help when I need it. Partnership goes both ways. Leora extended her hand. Deal. They shook on it, formal and ridiculous and exactly what the moment needed. Then Yoon queued up a documentary about deep-sea acoustics, something technical and soothing, voices calm, no storm footage, and they watched until Leora fell asleep against his shoulder, breathing steady, safe in the sound of rain that was just rain. September brought a decision Yoon had been avoiding for 3 months. Chairman Kang, facing criminal charges and desperate for leverage, offered a deal through his attorneys. Drop the internal investigation, sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement, and Yoon could return to the company in a senior advisory role with full executive restoration in 2 years. The offer arrived by courier on a Tuesday morning. Yoon read it in his temporary office, a modest space in a co-working building in Mappo, nothing like the glass tower he'd left behind. The terms were generous, the money substantial, the path back to power clear. He called Leora. I need your opinion on something. Can you come by the office? She arrived 30 minutes later, hair tied back, carrying her laptop and a coffee that smelled expensive. What's wrong? You sounded strange on the phone. Yoon handed her the document. Watched her read, saw her expression shift from curious to incredulous to angry. They're trying to buy your silence, she said flatly. Yes. And erase the investigation that proved institutional negligence. Yes. And give you back power in exchange for pretending none of it happened. That's the offer. Leora set the document down with more force than necessary. Please tell me you're not considering this. Yoon leaned back in his chair, exhausted. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. The company was my father's legacy. Giving it up felt like betraying him. This is a chance to reclaim that legacy, to steer the company from the inside, to make changes with actual authority instead of consulting from the margins. At what cost? Leora's voice was sharp. Yoon, that investigation proved that Chairman Kang and the board knowingly deferred maintenance. If you sign an NDA, that evidence disappears. The lawsuits lose their foundation. Survivors lose their case. And the next time the company cuts corners, people die again, but this time with your explicit complicity, because you chose the empire over the truth. I know. Then why are we even discussing this? Because it's not that simple. Yoon stood, paced to the window. This company employs 4,000 people. If the lawsuits proceed, if the evidence stands, the company could collapse. Those 4,000 people lose their jobs. Their families suffer. And I could prevent that by signing a piece of paper and accepting responsibility internally instead of publicly. Leora stood too, facing him across the small office. You're not responsible for the company's survival. The board is. Chairman Kang is. The shareholders who prioritize dividends over safety are. You're being asked to absorb institutional guilt so the actual guilty parties can walk away clean. That's not responsibility, Yoon. That's scapegoating dressed up as nobility. It's 4,000 jobs. It's a false choice. The company doesn't have to collapse if leadership changes, if accountability happens, if the board is replaced with people who won't defer maintenance to boost quarterly profits. She stepped closer. You told me once that you were too afraid to burn the company down because you'd lose your father's legacy. But your father built a company that nearly killed people because he prioritized profit. Is that the legacy you want to protect? Yun flinched. The truth landed hard. Leora's voice softened. I know this is painful. I know you loved your father. But protecting his legacy at the expense of future lives isn't honor. It's repetition. You have a chance to break that cycle, to build something new that actually deserves protection. Don't throw that away for a title and a corner office. Silence filled the room. Yun stared out the window at Mapo's streets, crowded, ordinary, far from the corporate towers of Gangnam. His reflection in the glass looked older than 45, worn by choices that shouldn't have been this hard. If I refuse the deal, the investigation proceeds. The lawsuits continue. Survivors get their day in court. And the company, my father's company, might not survive. Yes. And you think that's the right choice? I think it's the only choice if you want to sleep at night. Leora moved to stand beside him, their reflections side by side in the glass. Yun, I've watched you spend 6 months rebuilding your integrity piece by piece, teaching workshops on maritime safety, consulting with universities, funding research that prevents disasters instead of profiting from them. You've become someone who prioritizes lives over legacies. Don't undo that now, because guilt and nostalgia are louder than your conscience. Yun closed his eyes, breathing through the decision. 4 in. Hold. 4 out. When he opened them, the answer was clearer. I'm going to refuse the deal. Good. The company might collapse. Then it deserves to. My father's legacy dies with it. Leora took his hand. No. Your father's legacy evolves. You're not erasing what he built. You're making sure it doesn't kill anyone else. That's not betrayal. That's growth. Yun squeezed her hand, drew strength from the contact. Will you come with me when I tell the attorneys? Absolutely. They went together that afternoon, a small conference room in a law office near Seoul Station. Chairman Kang's attorneys, 3 of them in expensive suits, sat across the table with the NDA ready for signature. Yun read through it one final time, clause by clause, giving them hope. Then he set down the pen. I'm declining. The lead attorney blinked. Mr. Rhee, I don't think you understand the full implications. I understand perfectly. You want to bury evidence of institutional negligence in exchange for restoring my position. I'm saying no. The investigation stands. The lawsuits proceed, and I will testify fully and honestly about every decision, every meeting, every compromise that led to the typhoon disaster. You'll destroy the company. Maybe, but I won't destroy my integrity to save it. The attorneys exchanged glances. The lead one leaned forward. Mr. Rhee, if you proceed, you open yourself to significant legal liability. The board will argue that you, as CEO at the time, bear primary responsibility. You could face criminal charges. I'm aware, and I'll accept that consequence if it comes, but I won't accept complicity in covering up the truth. Leora, sitting beside him, said nothing, didn't need to. Her presence was support enough. The meeting ended 10 minutes later. No signatures, no deal. Just Yun's refusal, recorded and final. Walking out, Leora slipped her hand into his. How do you feel? Terrified, relieved, broke, probably, once the legal fees hit. Worth it? Yun stopped, turned to face her on the busy sidewalk, soul streaming around them. Yes, completely worth it. She smiled. Then let's get terrible coffee and celebrate making the right choice for once. It's 3 p.m. I don't care. This deserves terrible celebratory coffee. They found a convenience store, bought canned coffee that tasted like regret and sugar, and sat on a bench near the Han River, watching the water flow south. Yun's phone buzzed repeatedly. Attorneys, board members, journalists who somehow already knew. He turned it off. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Good plan. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking bad coffee, while the city moved around them, and the river flowed, and the choice, difficult, right, irreversible, settled into permanence. November marked 1 year since the typhoon. The ship, fully refurbished and certified, ran its standard route with 40% higher safety ratings and acoustic monitoring that had already prevented 2 potential failures in other vessels across the fleet. The company survived. Barely. Chairman Kang resigned, facing trial. 3 board members were removed. New leadership implemented policy changes. Maintenance budgets tripled. Safety reports now mandatory review in quarterly meetings. Independent audits every 6 months. The lawsuit settled out of court. Terms undisclosed but substantial enough that survivors called it justice, or close enough. Yoon wasn't CEO. Likely never would be again. But he consulted for the new leadership, advised on safety protocols, and slept better than he had in years. Leora's acoustic system became industry standard. Orders from 3 major shipping companies, installations scheduled through 2027. Her lab expanded, her team grew, and maritime engineering journals published her work with the kind of attention that came from solving real problems with elegant solutions. On November 7th, exactly 1 year after the storm, survivors gathered for a memorial voyage. Not a celebration, a remembering. Leora and Yoon boarded together, along with Jin-woo and Mi-sun, Dr. Min, Ji-hoon, and 40 others who'd lived through the typhoon and chose to return. The ship's captain, a new one, Captain Park, younger and hungry to prove the fleet's transformation, welcomed them aboard with a speech that acknowledged failure before celebrating progress. We cannot undo the past. We can only learn from it and build better. This ship is that promise, made solid. They sailed at dusk, the same route as a year before. Calm seas, clear skies, no storms forecast. Passengers walked the corridors, touched the reinforced bulkheads, visited the medical center that Dr. Min had helped redesign. Some cried, some laughed. All of them carried weight that would never fully lift, but had slowly become bearable. Leora stood at the rail, the same rail as night fell. Yoon joined her, predictable and welcome. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Strange. Like visiting a scar after it's healed. You remember how it hurt, but the pain isn't active anymore." Good metaphor. "I'm a researcher. Metaphors are half my job." He smiled, pulled something from his pocket, a small waterproof case. Opened it to reveal a field microphone, identical to the one she'd lost in the typhoon. "I had it made. Same model, same specs. Thought you might want to finish the recording you started." Leora took the microphone, felt its familiar weight. "You remembered. I remember everything from that night, including you lunging for equipment while a typhoon tried to kill us both. I was dedicated to my research. You were slightly unhinged, but in a charming way." She laughed, genuine and full. Clipped the microphone to the rail, activated the recorder. The ship's hum filled her headphones. Steady, strong, healthy. No stress fractures, no pre-failure signatures. Just a ship doing what ships should do, carrying people safely across water. "It sounds good," she said. "It should. You designed half the systems keeping it that way." They stood together as the ship cut through dark water, stars overhead, South Korea's coast a distant glow. Other survivors gathered on the deck, small groups, quiet conversations, the community of shared survival. Dr. Min approached, hands in her jacket pockets. "Dr. Shaw, Mr. Rhee, mind if I join?" "Please," Leora said. The 3 of them stood at the rail, watching the wake spread silver. Dr. Min spoke first. "I testified today. Well, yesterday. Technically. Time zones. The board trial. Told them everything about the medical center, the supply failures, the decisions that cost lives." "How did it feel?" Yoon asked. "Like lancing a wound. painful, necessary, cleaner afterward. She glanced at him. You refused the NDA. That made my testimony possible. Thank you. You don't have to thank me for doing the bare minimum. In my experience, the bare minimum is rarer than it should be. So yes, I do. Dr. Min turned to Leora. Your system saved a cargo ship last month. Tanker bound for Singapore. Sensors caught a hull fracture before it became a breach. No casualties, minimal damage. Made international maritime news. Leora hadn't heard. Felt her chest tighten with something like pride. That's what it's for. Well, it works, and every person on that tanker owes you their life, even if they never know your name. Ji-hoon appeared, tablet under his arm as always. Captain wants to show you something. All of you. They followed him to the bridge, a space usually off-limits to passengers, now opened for the memorial voyage. Captain Park stood at the central console, monitoring screens arrayed around him. He gestured to one in particular. This is your acoustic monitoring system, Dr. Shaw. Real-time data across all hull sections. The screen showed a waveform map. Green lines pulsing gently, no red zones, no alerts. Leora studied it, professional pride warring with survivor's caution. Everything looks optimal, she said. It is. And it's been optimal since we installed your sensors. We've caught 2 minor stress points during routine operations, addressed them immediately, prevented them from becoming failures. This technology is changing how we operate. Captain Park extended his hand. Thank you. From everyone who'll sail this ship and never know how close we came to repeating the past. Leora shook his hand, overwhelmed. Yun's hand found the small of her back, steadying, grounding. It's not just me, she said. Mr. Ri funded it. Ji-hoon helped install it. Dr. Min provided medical input for the alert thresholds. It's all of us. Then thank you. All of you. They returned to the deck as midnight approached. The ship's crew distributed small floating lanterns, biodegradable, safe for marine life, for a remembrance ceremony. Survivors gathered at the rails, lanterns in hand. Captain Park's voice came over the intercom, soft and respectful. 1 year ago, this ship and everyone aboard faced a storm that tested us beyond measure. We survived. Some of us were injured. All of us were changed. Tonight, we honor that survival. We remember the fear, the loss, the moments when mourning felt impossible. And we celebrate the fact that we're here, together, on a ship that has learned from its failures and emerged stronger. When you're ready, release your lanterns. Let them carry what you need to let go. Leora lit her lantern, small flame dancing in paper and wire. Held it for a moment, thinking of her mother, of the microphone lost to the sea, of the woman she'd been before the typhoon. Isolated, grieving, certain that independence meant never needing anyone. She released it, watched it rise and drift, joining dozens of others floating above the calm water like gentle stars. Yoon released his beside her. She took his hand. What did you let go? She asked quietly. The belief that I had to carry my father's mistakes alone. That legacy mattered more than truth. That strength meant never asking for help. He squeezed her hand. What about you? The idea that surviving alone was better than surviving together. That grief had to be private. That accepting help was weakness. She looked at him, this man who'd steadied her through storms both literal and emotional. I let go of the person who'd rather drown than reach for an outstretched hand. I'm glad you reached. I'm glad you stayed. Around them, lanterns rose, 40 points of light against the dark, each one carrying a piece of the past, each one released by someone who'd chosen to remember and move forward. The ship sailed steady beneath them, sensors listening, systems strong, a floating promise that the next storm wouldn't find them unprepared. December in Seoul was snow and streetlights, the city softened by white, Leora's apartment had become a shared space. Half her books and equipment, half Yoon's files and coffee experiments, completely theirs. They developed routines. Thursday ginger tea at the Seongsu Cafe. Sunday mornings offline, phones in a drawer, just them, and breakfast and the slow luxury of time. Breathing exercises before sleep. The timer app vibrating gentle patterns that soothed nightmares before they fully formed. The work continued. Leora's lab secured funding for Phase 2. Acoustic systems for bridges, tunnels, critical infrastructure. Yoon consulted for 3 shipping companies, restructuring safety protocols, building the institutional culture he'd once failed to create. They traveled together. Conferences, test sites, occasionally beaches where they could hear waves without fear. On December 17th, Yoon's phone rang early. His attorney. The trial verdict. Chairman Kang guilty on 4 counts of criminal negligence, sentenced to 3 years, company fined heavily, but allowed to continue operations under new oversight. Yoon listened, thanked her, ended the call. "It's over," he told Leora. "The trial. They found him guilty. How do you feel?" "Like the last weight just lifted. Not gone completely. I don't think it ever will be. But lighter. Bearable." She crossed the apartment, wrapped her arms around him. Felt him exhale, long and steady. "You did the right thing, refusing the NDA, testifying, all of it. We did the right thing. Fine, we're annoyingly noble together. I can live with that." He laughed into her shoulder. "What are we doing tonight?" "I have no idea. What do people do when they're not haunted by corporate trials and maritime disasters? I'm told they enjoy leisure, maybe watch films, order food they didn't make themselves. That sounds fake, but I'm willing to try." They ordered too much Thai food and watched a terrible action movie with physics that made Leora yell at the screen. Yoon fell asleep halfway through, head on her shoulder, completely relaxed. She let him sleep, turned down the volume, and thought about the strange architecture of healing, how it wasn't linear, wasn't clean, but was possible if you had someone to breathe with when the storms came. Later, when he woke disoriented and apologizing, she told him, "You don't have to apologize for being tired, or for trusting me enough to sleep. That's not weakness. Your words are your therapist's. Mine, but she'd approve." Spring arrived eventually, as it always did. The cherry blossoms in Seongsu painted the streets pink, and the Han River reflected light like scattered diamonds. Leora's research won an international award, recognition from the IMO for Innovation in Maritime Safety. Yoon attended the ceremony in Geneva, watched her accept the plaque, and deliver a speech about sound as language, about listening before failure speaks. Afterward, at a reception full of engineers and bureaucrats, he found her on a balcony overlooking Lake Geneva. "Hiding from your own success?" he asked. "Recalibrating. Rooms full of people still make me nervous. You just gave a speech to 300 maritime officials. That's different. That's work. Small talk is harder." Yoon stood beside her, familiar and steady. The lake stretched dark and calm, nothing like an ocean. "Leora, I want to ask you something. This feels ominous." "It's not. I promise." He turned to face her fully. "I've been thinking about the future, about what I want it to look like. And everything I imagine has you in it, not as an accessory or a convenience, but as the center. My partner, the person I build with and breathe with and weather storms with." He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside, a simple band, white gold, engraved with a waveform, the acoustic signature of a healthy ship, steady and strong. "I'm not asking you to marry me right now," Yoon said carefully. "I know we're both still healing, still learning how to be 2 whole people instead of 2 broken pieces trying to fit. But I want you to know my intention, that when we're ready, When you're ready. I want this. Us. Officially, permanently, whatever form that takes. Leora stared at the ring, at the waveform that represented everything they'd built together. Her throat tightened. That's the least romantic and most perfect proposal I've ever heard. I'm pragmatic. You knew this about me. I did. And She paused, choosing honesty. I'm not ready yet. For marriage, for that level of commitment. Not because I don't love you, but because I need more time to trust that it's real. That it won't disappear when the next storm comes. Yoon closed the box gently. That's okay. I'll wait. As long as you need. What if I never get there? Then we build something different. But I don't believe that. I believe you'll get there when you're ready. And I believe I'll still be here when you do. Leora took the box from his hands, opened it again, studied the ring. Can I hold on to this? Not wear it yet, but keep it. As a reminder that someone wants to stay. Of course. She slipped the box into her jacket pocket, then pulled him close, forehead to forehead, breathing synchronized. 4 in. Hold. 4 out. I love you, she said quietly. Even though I'm terrified of it. Even though I don't know how to do this without expecting it to end. I love you. I love you too. And I'm here. Not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. They stood together on the balcony while Geneva sparkled below, and the future stretched uncertain but possible. Built on rituals and honesty, and the stubborn choice to keep reaching for outstretched hands. 18 months after the typhoon, the ship sailed its 100th voyage since refurbishment. No incidents, no failures, sensors green across every system. Leora's acoustic monitoring technology was now installed in 47 vessels worldwide, credited with preventing 8 potential disasters. She wore the ring on a chain around her neck, not ready for her finger yet, but ready to carry it close. Yoon understood. Didn't push. Just continued showing up. Thursday tea, Sunday mornings, breathing exercises when the nightmares came. They were building something. Not perfect, not without scars, but solid, honest, tested by storms, and still standing. On a Thursday evening in June, sitting in their usual cafe corner, Leora reached across the table and took Yoon's hand. I'm ready, she said quietly. He looked up from his tea. Ready for what? She slipped the ring off the chain, held it between them. For this. For you. For us. I'm ready to believe it's permanent. Yoon's expression shifted. Surprise, joy, something deeper that didn't have words. Are you sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. Those aren't mutually exclusive anymore. He took the ring, slid it onto her finger. Perfect fit, the waveform catching lamplight. Then I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. I know, she said. I finally believe you. They finished their tea while Seoul hummed outside. 2 people who'd survived a typhoon and a trial, and the harder work of trusting that love could be as steady as the systems they'd built to keep ships from sinking. Not a fairy tale ending. Just a choice, made daily, to keep showing up for each other. The storm was over. The work continued. And that, they'd learned, was enough.